Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Grim Reaper build for Vex in Borderlands 4. So you can summon in this Grim Reaper here. We got pretty much infinite lifesteal, which will further boost up our overall damage. This is a really fun build, and it's actually quite strong through leveling, but it's also strong in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. So we'll be breaking down the best gear, the best ways to play through this build, and just overall strategies to make this work pretty strong. Now, the Grim Reaper here you can see alongside two other Reapers is actually pretty effective. And the funny thing is, during some boss fights, you can actually have them solo the boss themselves. So we will be using the 4th seal skill tree that gives us the Dead Ringer ability here, and taking it all the way down to get the Grim Reaper. Now what's also great about this is we actually get some points from the Vexcalation skill tree here that's going to give us lifesteal, and getting our health up to full matters because we can actually do some extra damage whenever we have our full health. So everything here all comes together to make this a very powerful build. Now the best part about this build is you can use any gear that you'd like, but I will be showing the best recommendations for gear. So for starting off here at level 0 and working our way up, I think one of the best choices is to get the idle hands here, giving us the increased reload speed at full health. We're going to have full health pretty much all the time, and this actually works out to be a pretty big boost to our overall damage, you'll see here later. Now, it's nice to be able to get some extra damage here, but this only works on gun damage, so it actually doesn't boost up our Reaper's abilities any. We can give them more health and melee damage, which will boost up the Reapers, but I actually think it's better to give ourselves a little bit of health back on kill. And you're going to see why this becomes so powerful, because it gives our minions basically a lot of sustain, but it also gives us a bit of sustain to maintain some of our abilities like idle hands. Now, our first version of the Augment that we want to have is Coven. This gives us the ability to heal our other spectres and Reapers when we summon in more Reapers. So this can be pretty effective. It can also give you a good critical hit chance, but I think it's a little bit better than the Gas Blast here. But once we make it to this level, now the Curse Blade is actually a really interesting ability, because we're actually going to go down to this skill tree here where we get the Harasplex here, which allows us a thrower knife. This becomes a actually really useful strategy. So with the Curse Blade, whenever we do a melee attack, it applies a curse to enemies, making them take kinetic status effect damage anytime they take gun damage. And with a fast firing gun, this becomes really crazy. So an SMG works great here, but this actually stacks up. So that's an extra 446 damage. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's actually quite a bit of extra damage. It's from our melee attacks though. But we also get this here. So curse damage now triggers on minions melee damage and deals increased damage whenever they're triggered by a critical hit. And this can do, our Reapers do melee damage. So this is actually a very synergetic combination here. Once we get down to here, there's a couple options we can go with. I like this one here, the Grave Fiends. This is super useful because this can boost up your overall damage quite a bit. So that's 10% per stack. That's an extra 30% damage. We can take it up to 37.5. We take another point here, but I think it's better to continue down here to get our best augment for this build, which is the Hellish Harvest. This allows our Reapers to do an attack that restores their health points, and it's actually quite a damaging attack, and they'll regenerate health for every enemy hit. So they'll use this on spawn whenever you bring them in, and every third attack, and this gives them 50% of their health per hit. This actually stacks up a lot if there's many enemies around them, and the damage potential is quite nice too. Now we got two options here. This one's if you're going to use fire weapons. I don't recommend it. I actually think the recurrence is better. So whenever we deal gun or melee damage, we gain a stack of recurrence, which increases our minions' gun damage and melee damage. And this is a 0.8 per stack. We have 50 stacks, so it's like 40% extra gun damage and melee damage. And that's for us and our minions. And we're going to be dealing gun damage quite a bit. So this can actually stack up our damage really fast. Now we also get this melee damage can deal fire damage potentially. I think it's nice. You can get, with 5 points, you can actually get a huge boost to your damage. It's 150% extra damage dealt, 50% chance. So it's like a 75% chance, or 75% boost to your melee damage overall on average. But I like the Harasplex here. So boosting this up to max, you see there, it does 7,500 damage on our melee. And that also sets up our Curse Blade. So our melee attacks apply curse. So the melee override will apply curse. And it'll also give us a, whenever we take out an enemy, the cooldown is refreshed. You can take the pin cushion here, which will throw 5 of them instead in a fan pattern, but it will only recover 30% on a kill. So it depends if you're going to be taking on multiple enemies. I actually really like the pin cushion because that 7,000 damage actually boosts up quite a bit. So you can go with either of these here, but we want to take the Grim Reaper Capstone. So you press and hold F to summon a Grim Reaper, which will drain enemies, dealing status effect damage over time and regenerate health for each drained enemy. They have a lot of survivability. When an enemy dies when they're being drained, there's a chance a new Reaper will be spawned. So yeah, that's really good. You can summon in multiple Reapers that way. Now, I actually think at this point, it's better to go into this skill tree. I was debating when to add this skill tree in because it actually has quite a boost to our damage. We get the Leeching Attunement here. So whenever we are attuned to just regular old kinetic damage, and for 6 seconds after that, we gain lifesteal and increase reload speed. So this further stacks up our reload speed. We have plus 25% reload speed there. We got a plus 30% at full health, which we're going to have full health with our Lifesteal, plus 10% Lifesteal, crazy. We can then take the Bloodletter, grounding critical hits will apply bleed, and this damage is actually really nuts. I'm not sure if this will get nerfed or buffed if it was intended to be that way, but it can become pretty crazy when paired with certain builds. The bleed, and especially this build, I should say, bleed is considered a status effect. Application chance is considered a status effect, so anything that boosts up status effects. Now, here's another one. This can give us increased kinetic damage and status effect damage, which is nice. That's a plus 20% bleed damage, and then plus 35% damage on our gun, which is pretty effective, all things considered. Now, an interesting one that actually works here is the enchantment, which will give you bonus kinetic damage whenever you have your action skill active, which is something that we have pretty often because of this here, and we can summon in 3 of them. So that gives you a huge boost to our overall damage. We get 37.5% extra gun damage, which is really nice. You don't have to take that skill tree, though. We can continue down here. We have 8 points left to put into this skill tree, and we wouldn't mind getting the Bloodshot and some of these others. Now, for the blue skill tree, you can add additional melee damage and additional fire damage if you prefer. I think that it's best to actually go into the green skill tree here. And then what we're going to choose between is increased skill damage, our Arcana here. But I think the Gray Vitality is a little bit better because this gives us health regeneration on kill. Which you can see there, I got a class mod that's giving us a lot. That's 9% maximum health capacity per stack. So we can get plus 90% health and then a 9% health regeneration. So this is pretty good. You can actually recover your health really fast with this. This also gives us our Bloodshot here. Whenever we use a rep kit, our next gunshot will be a Bloodshot, converting damage dealt into kinetic damage and dealing bonus damage. But we can also grab either Lifesteal here, or this one will give us kill skills increased duration, which applies to some of them. But I think the best choice between these two, it's kind of tricky. I do think the Essence Leech is a little bit better. Getting 1 point for Bloodshot is nice, though. This gives us an additional Lifesteal and doubles when our active skill is active, which, again, we have our active skill, action skill active often. So this is a huge boost to our overall damage. Now for specializations, these are less important, but the contamination one here is actually pretty crazy. These critical hits will grant increased status effect application chance. And remember, our bleed is actually a status effect, so this impacts it quite a bit. So every critical hit that we get will get increased critical hits, upwards of 100% status effect. This will actually multiply your bleed exponentially. It becomes crazy. This is also nice. 1 shot, 1 kill. Excess damage will be stored to add to the next gunshot. Then we can go with the Riddle You This. This will give you a plus 50% gun damage as you continue to keep attacking. And this one actually works really well here, the best defense. Whenever health is full, we get a plus 30% damage. As mentioned, we got Lifesteal. So this is actually on either shield or health. We're going to have our health full often. And I guess paired with certain gear here, we can actually do some crazy stuff. Now, if you want your action skill cooldown back quicker, this one, going with, I guess you got a couple options. The triple bypass, this isn't the triple bypass, but if you have I don't have it on this character, but the triple bypass will give you 3 charges, and then you can use that with the specialization here, the now with caffeine, which will give you 25% of your action skill cooldown back whenever you use a rep kit. So with that combination, you can actually get your Reapers back really quickly. This one, you want to make sure you can get the amp here that's on this one. Now the critical hit knife, it's great on this, but if you have other grenades like the waterfall, those work well too, or any of the bigger ones. This just makes the most sense here for critical hits, but you don't have to use it. You can use some of the other options here if you prefer. Now, between the different class mods, there's a couple that are really nice. We want to try and get the high caliber to pierce enemies. This further boosts up our bleed potential, which is just crazy. But this one here, so guns with Jacob's license parts have critical hit stacking, a plus 5% bonus damage. So you can get a plus 35% bonus damage on your crits, which is great. This gives you a 40% chance to ricochet non-critical hits. Shocking damage is boost. That's a great option. I like the fireworks shield. It's just going to be a big boost to our damage because it shoots out fireworks that deal damage to the enemies. But you can also go with the Timekeeper's new shield and go for the maximum health route, which is a very fun strategy because with this, you're just focused on keeping your lifesteal up as much as possible. It reduces the damage you take by 33%, and it gives you health regeneration per second. This can actually be pretty fun combined together, but the fireworks also gives you a massive boost to your damage, so it's your choice at that point. Now, I like to have the Resilient Undead Eye. Now, there is a class mod that makes sure Reapers badasses, and that's probably the better one. But this one here has plus 40% kinetic damage and plus 45% sniper rifle damage, so this is actually quite a huge boost to damage. And killing an enemy with a sniper rifle will trigger Bloodshot. Critically hitting an enemy with a sniper rifle has a 33% chance to trigger Bloodshot, which is going to boost up our damage again because we have that Bloodshot ability there. It becomes really crazy pretty quickly, especially when paired with the Stray sniper rifle, which can automatically find targets. You don't have to aim with this, and the critical hits will ricochet to multiple enemies. I also like Katagawa's Revenge here for shock or fire damage because it creates little pellets that deal damage. For SMGs, the plasma coil is great. and the Hot Slugger are some great guns. Although if you got some purples with underbarrels, those are pretty good. Anything that's got the ability to ricochet pellets is going to be pretty effective on this build. And you want to have guns that deal physical damage. And what's interesting is the Rainbow Vomit, which is kind of funny because it'll give you with the Rainbow Vomit, you have different elemental damage types, but it counts as physical damage. So you can use this as well. Oddly enough, it does work with this build, but it may not be your first choice. It's an interesting one, but it can ricochet as well. Now this build works pretty well even in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, so we can pop in our Grim Reaper there. I like to have a few Reapers out on the battlefield with me at any given time. Then we got our Sniper Rifle, which is going to stack up extra damage. And then we also have our Melee Override, which then you can shoot the melee attack at a target here, which gives you a throwing knife. I keep grabbing that there. So there's our throwing knives, and then our critical hit knife, and then you just go shooting at it, and you see there the health bar is just depleted really quickly. So the funny thing is, the combination of the melee into the throwing knife into the gun damage is actually pretty crazy. So here's a boss with a bit more health. This is going to be challenging because it's going to be wiping me out really quickly, but with our rep kit, we can do a bunch of damage ourselves. I like to have at least 3 Reapers out because they will draw the enemy's aggro from it. Then you have your fan daggers there, which do a good amount of damage. And then we also have our throwing knife here, which is going to further boost up the crit damage. But then you see, once you get this fully set up, it almost, normal guns would not delete this boss this quickly, but all the things combined together actually work extremely well. And this is great for if you need to farm legendaries, because there's a second one there. But with this combination, getting both the damage boost from all the abilities here, you can make some of the sniper rifles do insane amounts of damage. Coming from our bloodshots here, that gives us the boost of damage, the lifesteal impacting all of it. We're going to have full health pretty much all the time. You have the Reapers there to draw aggro away from you. I actually think this is one of the strongest builds in the game, just because of all the combinations together work very strongly. So you see there, you can delete even the highest health bosses in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch y'all in the next video.